And here we go.
And here we go. Welcome. Today is January the 28th. It is a freezing cold day here in 2021 in Chattanooga. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 447.
It is, and you're right. It is.
It's bone chilling today.
I walked outside and it just slapped me in the face.
No, it is bone chilling. Like 48 hours before this, I went outside and ran Tuesday morning early, and I was in t-shirts and shorts, and it was humid, and it was in the 60s. And I went out this morning, and it wasn't snowing, not even close, but it was flurrying, and it was just frigid, and the
Did
wind.
You take
the
a
wind
video
is up.
of the flurries?
Yes, and I posted it to my Instagram, which is Robbie_don't have Instagram hashtag.
Hey,
no. Guess what? It's snowing. No, it was freezing. It's pitch black. I have a headlamp. I was like, man, it's snowing, but this is great. I prefer running in the cold because Tuesday was a reminder. As much as we like complain about, God, I can't wait for spring and summer to get here. It teased you a little bit on Tuesday and was like, hey, remember the humidity and the dew point that I usually smack you in the face with in the summer and you complain about then too? Don't be in such a hurry. And so I'm not. I am welcoming these frigid temps. I was happy to run in them. I really enjoyed running in the cold ever since we lived in Kansas City. And I enjoyed it this morning. Yeah, it's a frigid, cold day here. It's windy. It's going to be like this the rest of the week, but we appreciate you tuning in. Again, this is podcast 447. If it's your first time tuning in, we appreciate you joining us when we have a lot of options in the podcast universe, especially those that are triathlon related, and we are that. We are a triathlon related podcast. We don't talk about just triathlon. We don't talk about just swimming and cycling and running and nutrition and races and professional triathletes. We talk about life. We talk about all the things that are important to us, both on and off the course. We talk about what we're both going through as both coaches and athletes. Sometimes we'll pop in our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. You can search that, and we'll let you in after you answer one simple question. We might even go off one of the posts that was in there earlier today. But for the most part, Mike and I just sit back, relax, have a open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what maybe our athletes are going through. We're just trying to take the pulse of the overall community and hopefully deliver a happy and healthy message, and you can apply it to your daily life and go from there.
Sounds good to me, man. You just asked me beforehand. You said, "Are you tired?"
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like that. Like, are you sick? Look, but
No.
the last 2 weeks you've been like. You've been spry. You've been like a
Yeah,
spry young man. Like
really
you've been like bouncing around. I'm like, man, this is like, and I came in this morning and was saw box on the floor. You had unpacked one of our new cubby systems to shelve and organize. I was like, man, the dude is on fire. And he rolled in this morning and I thought, it got him.
No, it wasn't that. But I've actually been up since 7. I've been at Training Peaks for a couple hours. And I was telling you, back to that thing. I mean, it was nice out the other day, and I decided to go for a little. I'd been running on
Tuesday,
the treadmill.
right? The day was nice.
Yeah. And I'd been running on the treadmill maybe I think 11 or 12 times in a row. And I was like, I got to go see what this does outside. I went outside, and it was kind of, it wasn't toasty, but it was, windy and sunny and all these other things. And I only did like a short 25 minutes or something like that, but it was a lot different, like if you're not used to running outside. The treadmill's been really great for me, but it reminded me that I need to
get outside.
Get outside. Yeah. It's a different animal. So, same with obviously the trainer, but the point being, I guess, is that, I'm not as spry right now.
You're not spry. But you took yesterday off. You listened to your
that's
body.
what I was getting at. Yeah, you're like, maybe today's a day off. I was like,
maybe it's a time for a day off because you've been on a pretty.
It certainly is a nighttime workout for me today because I can sort of come back.
It's if you look at it almost is like 2 days off. Like if you from when you ran on Tuesday, if you make it to the day past the time you went on Tuesday, it's like it's 48 hours off, but you're still running. You're only taking 1 day off. Isn't it a mind mess?
No, it's so funny because I've been trying to creep my workouts earlier. 3 in the afternoon, noon maybe the other day or something like that.
Which is early for you.
And it's weird how that kind of, I know,
messes with your day. You're like, what is it? Dinner time?
I'm just such a night workouter. Yeah, I know. I was the other day I was like, wait a minute, it's 3 and I'm done already?
It's
This is weird.
It's like when everybody, well, most people that actually get off like on, like bank holidays, like, Martin Luther King Day, it's like, the week it's such a short week. I feel like today's Wednesday. And it's like, no, dude, it's like, Tuesday or Thursday, but your week gets all out of whack when you take like one like off day in the week, or you get a long week. You're like, the week's like flying by, man. What is it, Friday? Yeah. And you feels like, but yeah, when you're used to doing something a certain time of day, it kind of throws you off a little bit, especially a guy like you that is traditionally like a 4 p.m. or later guy. The last, I think it was Monday and Tuesday, you're like, hey, you better hop on the treadmill. And I was like, no. And you're like, I think I'm going to go. I'm like, dude, it's like noon. What are you doing? Like this, it's like, I like looked outside to make sure like my watch was correct. I was like, am I late picking up Hayden? What are you getting on the, and then I heard you, knocking out a hard trainer ride on the watt bike. And I was like, man, you are on fire. And then I woke up today and you came in. I was like, you
not on fire.
Not on fire.
Well, we got next week as run camp, and I'm already trying to mentally adjust to your schedule, which is like, I was like looking at the sunrise going, is it still? No, it's getting up a little earlier now.
Listen, it's not just my schedule. We do have our run camp next week, Wednesday through Sunday. We do start early, but I will say this last camp we started later.
We did
every morning. We started later because
love it.
They did love it, and I am committed to starting later again with this one, simply because we added an entire extra day. We don't have to worry about fitting. I want to give people the bang for their buck. I want to put as many runs as we can in, and now we have a whole extra day. We don't need to be rushed. And so I'm going to let us, kind of sleep in. I think we started around 8, everybody's like, and for most people, that's like, and that's like Central Time. You and I are both like Eastern guys now. So that's like 9 o'clock for us. It's like
true.
It's like a whole different day.
Yeah. And it is always a good jump start for me. By the end of run camp, I'm like a morning guy. So I'm hoping that maybe I can transition to running at 11 a.m. from now on after that.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how that works.
We'll see.
I kind of knew where I wanted to go today. Even, do you have something else you want to talk about with your rest day or feeling disheveled?
No. I feel fine.
I think you're really going to rally today. I think you're around 3 or 4. You know what else I think is affecting it? Is you walked out today and there was bone-chilling cold. It definitely doesn't help. People who walked out the door today, it was sunshine and like 50, been like a little extra pep in your step.
I don't know about that.
You don't know? I mean, it's only what?
I like
a 15-foot walk from your door out to into the door, and it's not much time to get acclimated.
Put the hood up and turned right and hard right and just beelined it to the entrance
and put the hood down. Yeah. This was something I wanted to. I was kind of going this direction anyway, and based off a run that I had on Tuesday. But I think it's Alyssa. She commented in our Facebook group. Again, that's Crushing Iron Group. You can search that on Facebook if you want to be part of that conversation. Hop in there and we'll let you in. And basically, sure, the kind of the gist of her question was she was questioning, so what's the line of pushing yourself? Because sometimes you have to push, and then sometimes you shouldn't. And she seems like it's actually a crazy question. She had a workout that she wasn't feeling like doing. I guess it had intervals in it. It was a scheduled run. She was procrastinating to get to it. Her coach was like, most coaches would say like, hey, if you really aren't feeling it, just take the day, just relax or do it and then just make it easy. But she ended up doing the workout and doing really, really well. And so the question that kind of came up was, what is kind of that fine line in terms of, when should I push and when should I not? And I think it's an outstanding question because I think a lot of athletes actually struggle in that area in terms of listening to the longer I've coached, the last 2 to 3 to 4 years especially, and this is, again, like this, it'll make me sound grumpy and it'll make me sound old school, make me feel old, and that's fine. But the longer I've coached, the more I find athletes are losing touch with their bodies and just listening to that and really just kind of troubleshooting where they are and what's going on. I went out for a run on Tuesday. I swam on Monday. I had some really great runs this last weekend. I was on the trails. I did like 2,500 feet of climbing. I was feeling strong. Wasn't feeling fast, but I was feeling strong. And then swam on Monday. It's kind of a recovery day. And then Tuesday I woke up and I didn't sleep very well, and I just felt off. And I think one of the struggles I think a lot of people have had in the last year is that, unfortunately, like when some people feel like they feel off or they have like a small tickle in their throat, or they're like, I'm getting sick. And if I'm getting sick, I'm getting COVID. Like there's no like in between. It's like if your heart rate's up, you're like, I got to take things easy. There's no sore throats. I got to take 2 weeks off. And so I went out and I told you this. I said as soon as I walked out the door, and I was like, you know what? This isn't good. Let me rephrase. What I was going to say was this isn't going to go well. What I really thought was I don't feel that awesome. And I wasn't expecting, it was just going to be a 50-minute run. It was like just a nice get out, run 50 minutes. It was warmer, so I immediately checked. I did like the bike version of checking your PSI, which was like, let me check the humidity real quick. Because I was like prepping myself for like a really bad run. And I was like, I checked it. It was like I said, it was in the 60s, which doesn't seem hot, but when it's all it's done has been 20s, 30s, 40s, it's warmer. It's going to affect your running. And then I looked at the humidity, it was like 95. I was like, all right. So I went ahead and set myself up for like, this isn't going to feel like your other ones have felt. Combine it with the fact that you didn't sleep very well the day before that. You had probably a little bit too much coffee later on in the day, and then it was probably a little bit too strong of a coffee, which I'm famous for making. And I was like, I could just tell my heart rate, it wasn't racing, but it was pronounced, if that makes sense. Like I could just feel it. Like it felt like, like if you've taken like cough meds, the night before you wake up the next day, you just had kind of that off like feeling where you could, again, like your heart's not racing, it's not beating out of your chest, but you can just feel it. It's more pronounced. And I looked at my heart and I was like, I'm definitely a little bit higher than normally, and this is probably going to be a little bit more of a struggle. So I went off running, and I knew within 20 steps, heart rate was like, boom, like way up. And I was like, my immediate thought was, honestly, I'm getting sick. Because the only times I rarely ever get sick, if ever, but the only times I ever kind of felt off, I can usually tell on my runs if I'm not feeling very well based on my heart rate. And so I was like, you know what, but I'll take it down the hill. Remember, it's warmer, and just go. For the first like 2 or 3 miles, I wasn't hurting, but my heart rate was like, if I go out for a comfortable run, that's like a zone 2 run for me. My heart rate usually hovers around 150 to 157, and that's usually like anywhere in between, depending on terrain, anywhere between like 750s and like 830s. Well, it was in like the mid 9s, and I had my pace covered. I don't look at anything, but I could just feel. I was like, this next split's going to be in the high 9s. What does that mean? And I kept thinking to myself, all right, are you really getting sick? Because if you are, then do you cut it short? But I kept thinking, I don't feel sick, right? It's like we all play these mind games, especially now. It's like, I don't feel bad, right? I just don't feel at the top of my game. I feel like I have had, if I started troubleshooting, I was like, all right, did you wake up sweating? No. Do you have a fever blister? Was something I get if I'm like, obviously it's a fever blister. If I'm getting sick, I usually get one of those. I usually like wake up in a sweat, and then I also like start sweating immediately when I start working out. I was like, do I have all those? No. So am I getting sick? Probably not. Does this feel good? No, it doesn't. So what should I do? Instead of even just kind of like hanging out in like my normal, like instead of, again, looking at pace, I was just like, instead of even just trying to be what I should be today, which is like a zone 2, I was like, I'm actually going to pedal back, right? I'm going to pedal back into like my zone 1 shuffle that feels like time is slowly creeping by forever, and it's going to take me forever and ever. And I think, as I was pulling this up earlier, I wanted to get, just for like some context, is I wanted to pull it up, and I think if I'm looking at my laps, my mile 2 was 9:33, mile 3 was 9:35, mile 4 with an average heart rate of 151 on Tuesday was 9:42. Okay, no elevation, no nothing, and my mile 5 was I think 9:27, and then that was it. It was all in the mid 9s. And I remember I got done thinking, all right, I don't feel sick. And I was glad that I did the whole duration of the run. I didn't cut it short. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think I had some strides I was going to do, but I cut those out because I was like, what's the point? Right. I was like, what's the point in like spiking my heart rate up? And I've been trying to keep it low the entire time and keep my effort level low. I was like, let's just play this one safe and take a step back. Obviously, my body is not enjoying where it is right now. So I walk up the hill and I kind of looked through my stuff and I was like, yeah, if I put 2 and 2 together, the answer is that, yeah, I didn't sleep very well, heart rate's higher. I had way too much coffee the day before. That's also my heart rate's higher. I wasn't stressed, and then I had like a half cup of coffee that morning. I was like, no, it's like no wonder. And obviously it's warmer and the humidity. So I was like, if you add all those together, those make sense for why my run sucked, right? For me, why it felt like this is like oppressive. It wasn't because, oh my God, I'm getting sick, I need to like take the rest of the week off. And I think it's hard for athletes not to jump forward and make decisions. A couple of days had like, maybe I should just take it easy the rest of the week. And my thought was, and that's why I think the beauty of being consistent is, well, you know what, tomorrow, and I even mentioned to you when I came in, I said, what did I say? Yeah,
you said you're going to do another test this afternoon in a more controlled environment to see if that was a fluke.
I did. I brought my run shoes and my shorts, and I was like, I think I'm going to run later today just to see, if won't have had any more coffee. I've drank a lot of water. My heart rate have gone down. And I just kind of don't want to see. It was kind of like a wellness check. It was like, I really want to see, because if my heart rate's still sky high, then all those previous things I had kind of go out the window. And you were like, why? Why are you going to do that? And I was like, I don't know. I just kind of want to see. Like I was interested.
Like
you exactly. You were like, why? Why are you doing that? But my thought was like, and again, like this, I think goes back to like how we are now. I was like, because I want to know right now. Like I want to know like immediately, am I really feeling bad? Am I about to get sick, or did I just have like a bad run? Which we all have bad runs. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to run tomorrow morning, and I have some hill sprints in there. So you know what? I'll figure this out tomorrow. And so I woke up the next day, and this is kind of going back to Alyssa's question, term like when to turn things on and when to turn things off, and when to push yourself. Was I was going to run. I had scheduled repeats and hills to do on Wednesday, and then I had another easy run on Thursday. And again, this is the beauty of being flexible. And I mentioned this the other day, is that like, you know, I rarely do a week like in succession like I'm supposed to do. I always flip something based on how I'm feeling, based on, you know, what's going on in life, based on what the weather's like. And so I say, you know what, just start it on this run, be optimistic, you know, and just decide after 30 minutes, how do you feel? Do you feel better? If you feel better, then let it rip. If you feel a lot better, if you don't feel like it's going to dig yourself back in the hole, or if you still don't feel, you know, quote unquote right or back, then just cruise easy and let's try again another day. And so I set out with kind of two options. One, cruising on for the 15 minutes like I was supposed to do on Thursday, or end up doing my intervals. So I went on my run, and I knew within the first, 15 steps, I'm back, baby.
You're back.
I'm back. It was instant. Like my heart rate was significantly lower. Everything was lower. I still, because, you know, I think our first mile is always a lie. It's always like you feel real good or you feel real crappy. And it's usually like miles 2 and 3, we're like, this is actually really who I am today, and not, you know, like who you think you are. I was like, so let me just kind of just slow my roll for a minute, you know, and I think we do this a lot. It's like, I wanted it to be good. So of course my first segment, I was like, dude, my breathing I was probably doing like my best breathing. I was like, I got this under control. I'm feeling better. This is great. It was a little bit cooler. And so I went out in mile 1. I was like, thank goodness I feel better. Mile 2, same. I feel better. Mile 3 was a little bit higher, but I was like, that was the terrain, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I think I feel fine. Like this is like, I think I'm ready to do this. And so I went out, I did my intervals, and just for like, just some context to bring back to like the day before I did, again, the humidity was higher and it was warm, but I did 51 minutes, and I think my average pace was like 925. So my average heart rate was 151 or 152. The next morning, 24 hours later, it was cooler. I had slept well. I didn't have as much caffeine, let my body kind of settle. I ran for just a little over an hour, and I averaged like an 8-minute pace with some sprints in there. I think my heart rate was like 154. So like a minute and 25 difference with just a few beats and a longer workout with harder set. Like that's how different I felt just the next day. And I think it's hard for athletes to not make plans, because athletes love to plan, right? It's like, maybe I should take the week. Like, well, do you need the week? How about you just take today, right? And troubleshoot and figure out what you feel. And so kind of to go back to Alyssa's question was like, you know, I think you have to a coach can't tell you, right? Because her coach told her, just take the run easy. Right. But just because you think it might not go well doesn't mean it's not going to. Or on the flip side, just because you expect or want a workout to go really well also doesn't mean that it's going to go well. Because my first thought was, dude, it's 60 shorts and a t-shirt. Like only takes me like 30 seconds to get dressed. I'm going to kill it today.
Right.
And I walked out the door and I was like, that's not reality. And so I think you really just have to kind of listen again to your body. And my biggest thing was I knew I felt like crap on Tuesday. I had been running with some music lately. And I turned both off because I wanted to listen to myself. I wanted to listen to my breathing, and I just kind of be really in touch. And I feel better. Thank goodness.
There's obviously a lot in there. I think we have a tendency to want to prove things to ourselves, especially in those situations. When you go out and you're like, you know, you're in X shape, and then you go out and you run like you did the other day, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, am I in Y shape? And then you're like, I need to prove to myself that I can be in X shape again. So your tendency is to push through it. And, you know, I mean, other than heart rate, I'm sure that you could have picked up your pace and you could have really run harder and had a, you know, quote unquote, good pace for the run. It would have just, you know, been very hard, right? So I always think about that like as in, all right, you're struggling, you know that you probably can pick it up. because you feel strong enough to do that, or like mentally, or you have the combination of mental, physical abilities that you have. That's the kind of stuff you do in a race. You know what I mean? Like if you're not quite feeling it sometimes, like the thing that came back to me right away was that trail race we did a few weeks ago, when I was just out there and I was talking about how I hadn't really run hard. I hadn't done any kind of race since Ironman Wisconsin about over a year before. So I felt tired, but I was like at a certain point into this 8 miles that I ended up running, I was able to dig it up and find it, for that particular day. And I think we always have that ability, but we have to recognize when the right days are for that. And I also was actually talking to somebody, one of my athletes, about this concept of when you get in better shape, sometimes it takes longer to really get into so like if you had like a 2-hour run that day and you were really slow, it's possible maybe that somehow your body would have figured it out, and by an hour in, you might have felt actually better, so it takes some times. And I think there's with running and cycling, it's different, because sometimes on runs, I just can't find it. I'm just completely jacked. But going back to it all, we have like certain instances we reflect on. And that one day when I just didn't have it on the bike the first 4 or 5 miles, and I just pushed it hard, and I just opened up. I was mad, and I just opened up my legs, and I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I just pump. And then we ended up doing like 80 or something like that. And I felt great at the end. So
you almost turned around after like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you were furious.
I was mad. It didn't make any sense, and I just forced myself to wake the legs up. And I think that's more reasonable to do on the bike, I guess, is what I'm getting to. I mean, I think it probably happens on the run, and that's why this is such a weird gray area of like, when do you push it? I don't know.
I think
always the answer.
You brought up a few things there that I want to touch on. I think when we're training, it's always super important, in my opinion, to know your schedule, because you want to know. Obviously, you'll know what you did the previous 48 hours, so you can kind of troubleshoot why you may or may not feel the way you do in your current state. But you also need to know what's the purpose and what's the point. What am I doing in the next 48 hours, right? So when you're racing, there is no next 48 hours, right? You don't care. It's over. Like in the previous 48, it's all about getting to where you can absolutely bury yourself during that one thing. You don't care about the next 48 hours. You're not worried about, tomorrow I've got this ride. No, you don't. You're taking some days off, baby. It's not even the week. So you don't really have to worry and kind of troubleshoot, like, what am I going to have left? Where am I going to be in the next few days? And that's, again, when you're, like you mentioned about, cycling, and you have to tell athletes like this, when athletes go from being inconsistent to consistent, or, they go from having a day off every single week to not having a day off, that like, it takes you a while, especially as you build up and accumulate fatigue. It takes you a while to feel good in some of your longer rides and even longer runs. Yeah, running, you're never going to feel really, really awesome, because it's more load bearing, obviously. But in cycling, sometimes it takes like an hour and a half to just get your legs underneath you, especially if you're running a lot, right? Running is a little bit different. Sometimes they might come around, sometimes they just might not, right? But in terms of like the schedule, like when I went out and ran that morning, I thought, or the morning that I felt like crap, and I was like, all right. Like you mentioned, like you could have pushed it and probably had but I would have been shelled, and I would have been like, why? Like, I'm not proving anything. I could care less if my, upload says 9:30s. Don't care, because you know what I want tomorrow to be? Much better. Because if I had to push myself, I would have dug myself a huge one, probably felt like crap the next day. Instead of bouncing back, instead of making it one bad run, I could have made it 2 or 3 or 4. And I also thought to myself, all right, well, this run doesn't feel great. The day before I had an active recovery, but then the previous 2 days I ran pretty hard on the trails, so I'm not feeling that awesome. So it's actually probably a good thing if I take this even easier than I originally thought. And then I look forward to my schedule and think, all right, tomorrow I've got some hard stuff. I kind of want to be ready for those, and I want to do those to the best of my ability, right? It's kind of the same argument you have with people who love to hang out in the gray zone. They only hang there. They only hang out in like the steady tempo, hard pace, and they wonder why they can't ever go hard, because when you ask them to go hard, they can't, because they're always so fatigued. You either need to go way up or way down. You don't need to kind of hover in the middle. And that's what I would have done to myself if I'd have been like, I'm just going to push it today. And then I woke up the next day with tired legs and a sore body and been like, all right, I want to rip it on these intervals. I don't have it because I was an idiot yesterday, right? And so you lose an opportunity. You kind of just have two washes versus one that's really good. And so you have to kind of look forward and think, all right, got intervals the next day or not? And then I got long run, like, what do I really want to feel better for? And how can I feel better while still getting the work done? There is no, like, in my opinion, like, shouldn't be like expectations in a workout to hit certain, an actual pace or an actual, watt. Like, that's why I don't give those, because I think they're unreasonable, because it doesn't allow you to make those decisions on your own. You feel compelled and expected to hit a specific thing, even if you're feeling like crap. And that's how you get overtrained. That's how you get sick. That's how you get injured. So it's important to look forward and think, all right, well, and then I've got a day, then I have another long run. Like, where do I want to be in 3 or 4 days? And do I want to sacrifice being an absolute moron and letting my ego get a hold of me today? Be like, oh, I just don't want to see those numbers. I'm not that person. Well, you know what? Today you are. And you know what? That's also okay, because you know what you don't want to be? That same person tomorrow. So if you don't be the same person tomorrow, then be smart today. So that was like, I am not the best athlete on the planet by far, but I do consider myself a very smart athlete. I feel like I know my body really, really, really well. I'm always seem to be able to navigate and not, quote unquote, not get injured or not get sick. And like, I know when to rein it in and just be like, you know what? I just feel off, or I know I feel really, really good. And I think it's become a lost art with how connected we have to be all the time. I didn't listen to music again this morning, so 3 days in a row, because I still wanted to come, like, you need to listen to and remind, like, you don't want to get caught up in the moment or even caught up in the song, and because we've been rocking out at some Pearl Jam Pandora here for the last few weeks, and I've been turning it on before I leave, and even Hayden's like, is that the other morning? He was like, is that the Red Hot Chili Peppers? And I was like, you liked them? Because I mentioned them the previous. He's like, yeah, I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was like, well, me too. And so I've been listening to that as I walk out the door, because I'm putting my phone in my back pocket and just kind of putting the music on. And I was like, but I need to remind and like, just listen to my feet hit the ground, listen to my breath, control, because it's so much easier for me to stay controlled versus kind of, because you see people, like, especially on the bike, on the trainer, like, sorry, coach, I got distracted. I was emailing, or I was playing on Facebook, and I was, messaging on my girls, and I know it was supposed to be intervals, but I missed 4 of them because I just got distracted. Okay, well, that's on you, right? The same thing goes in run. Like, I know I was supposed to swim, but my favorite song came on, and I just started to pick up the pace a bit. Like, you lose, there's nothing wrong with that, but you just kind of lose yourself in that, and you forget what you're actually doing. It can obviously, if you do it once or twice, no big deal. But if you do it all the time, it can come back to bite you. You just have to be really in touch and aware with your body. Same thing's going back to what you said about getting out and running outside. People become so obsessed with just doing one thing all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it, because I think it helps create really good patterns of consistency. But there is no substitute for acclimating yourself to the environment in which you intend to race. Mm-hmm. And you cannot replicate that inside as many tools and as many, virtual courses and whatever, and, wind things and climbing things you can put on your bike. Like, it's just interesting, like, that we just keep, like, inventing things to make us feel like we're, it's like people have that joke meme now. It's like, you can't eat inside, but so we brought inside outside so you can eat outside inside. And It's the same thing with riding. It's like, you don't want to ride outside, so we're going to bring outside inside so you can feel like you're riding outside inside. And so we're bringing, like, things to lift up your bike and and it's like, now you can, like, steer inside virtually. And, like, or you could just, I don't know, pedal out of your garage and, like, go do the same thing. There is literally no substitute for getting out and doing things with, like, in the same environment you're going to. And then, I know we mention it a lot, but as we kind of go through this time of year, and races are going to get closer and closer and closer. So many people have been inside for various reasons for the last year. It is going to be a swift reckoning when it comes to getting people outside running and riding for 5.5, 6 hours with wind and with heat and with, or maybe even, like, cold. Like, get your butt outside. Like, it's harder on your body. It's harder on your mind. Right? You have to think about everything. You have to maneuver, especially riding. Like, yes, running. I think running is the simplest one to kind of think through, because you're like, yeah, the concrete, the pavement, it's going to be harder on my body, right? I'm going to have to create, I have, like, a little bit extra push on. That makes sense, right? But then cycling, you're like, it's just fine. No, you have people. You have to steer. You have to actually, steer like things that matter, like cars and people and the roads. And you're going to have terrain that moves. You're going to have like wind that's like, crushing in your face. You're going to have to sit up and, like you can't just sit up out of your saddle and text your friends while drinking water at the same time. You're going to have to worry about, actually drinking and consuming the right amount of hydration, the right amount of fuel while you're actually steering and doing all these things. Mentally and emotionally, it's the same thing as you're like, hey, I'm going to go drive today 6 hours. You're like, oh, that's no big deal. You're just sitting in a car doing nothing. Yeah. And you get there and you're like, I'm wiped. Because you were mentally engaged on driving on the interstate for 6 hours, but you are 100% done. You're like, I'm exhausted from just sitting there still. Same thing from mental and like emotional engagement standpoint. You have to be in high alert when you bike. I don't know how I went from feeling like crap on a run to being high alert on your bike, but here we are.
Well, and high alert driving 75 miles an hour, which becomes, you think it's natural and normal, but your body's probably like, what the hell?
When did you start driving 75?
That's a great point. 60.
You don't drive 75.
I know, because I don't like the stress of going too fast. But, well, here's the thing. Like, I remember when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, because my thing is always like, okay, so if you're training all winter up north and you come to race Chattanooga 70.3 in May, and it's probably 20 degrees hotter than, or 30 degrees hotter than you've even seen yet, maybe, depending on where you're coming from. I remember when I used to go like spectate the Nashville Country Music Marathon, and it was in April. And I remember one year it was in April and it was like 73 degrees. I mean, it's kind of a abnormally hot day for that time of year. And I feel like people from, all I saw was like people from Canada or northern, Wisconsin or Minnesota or whatever, anywhere up north. And they're all just sitting on the side of the road, just drinking fluids at mile 20 because it was just too much. But it was 70 degrees. So what I really think is like what you're talking about is sort of this, your body inside on a treadmill, there's no elements whatsoever. It's just, there's no wind, there's no sun, there's no temperature. It's like perfect temperature because you're indoors. It's something you're used to. So my thought on that is that even though you're up north or where I am, where we are, it would be like racing in Florida in 2 months probably or something. So to me, even though you can't replicate the temperature, and we talk about heating up on a treadmill or wearing like, sweatshirts and things like that, that might be a good idea too. But I also think running in elements all the time, whether they're cold, I think running in freezing cold snow would help translate into running in a hotter area better than running on a treadmill in a controlled environment, because your body you're shocking yourself. You're forcing it to work better, maybe to create more heat. And I think that would have an inverse effect in the cold. It's just your body controlling the thermostat more often and better. So I think that type of training will translate better than you think.
I think it just comes down to building more resiliency and making you an athlete that knows how to adapt, right? Versus like an athlete that has to have things go perfectly all the time in their controlled, perfect pain cave with air conditioning and their music and their 17 screens that are up. It's like, I've got all these things, and then you get on the road and you're like, wait a minute, there's wind. I'm not used to wind. Like, how do I shift? I'm used to my trainer, going into ERG mode, and I can, I don't even know how to shift right now. It's like you need to know these things. Like, these things are incredibly important. But that's why, like, if you're a person like, oh well, I don't feel safe where I am, or it's too cold, I'm like, then get your fat bike or your mountain bike out and go ride once a week. Keep up your handling. Keep up, your ability to, and just stay mentally engaged. Like, that is one of the hardest things about racing, and why you see so many athletes, like the last, 5, 10, 20 miles of an Ironman or 7.3, you see people weaving all over the road. Yes, it's because many triathletes really suck at bike handling, but it's also because their mind just wanders. You become so mentally tired of looking at the same yellow line, the same course, especially if it's like a flat course, that you just start to think, and you see people like hit cones, and you're like, that cone has been sitting there for the last 500 feet with no one in front of you, yet you still hit it. You see people do that and swerve all, what I'm talking about. Like, you say, why are you getting so close to this cone? Like, pay attention to the road. But you become so accustomed to doing these rides while not having to pay attention. So when you get thrown into a real life, thing, like you might be, and when there's a lot of people around you, then you're totally engaged. But when you're totally engaged, you're not, because what you're doing is you're so tense because you're not used to having so many freaking people around you that you don't know how to relax and do your thing. And then once the road clears, you're like, oh, I can kind of let my mind wander. And then all of a sudden now I'm hitting the rumble strips. Now I get a flat tire, or now I'm hitting these cones, and now I'm swerving left and right. And you got the guy yelling at you, on your left. And you're like, okay, let me swerve more left. And like, that's what happens when you go out. But that's why you should always take advantage of athletes. Like, hey, can I take my fat bike out? Yes, 100%. Go ride your bike. Like outside, do something. Oh, it's too cold. I don't want to do this. Then, bundle up and get on a bike of your choice, or do something that makes you think, that makes you stay engaged. Because if you're doing that, you're teaching your body, you're teaching your brain how to react. And you have to be able to react on race day, because things aren't going to go the way you want them to go, period. They're just not. Whether you're acclimated, everyone spends all this time and money on like, I'm going to acclimate to this perfectly. I'm going to have my thermostat set perfectly to this. And like, okay, so you're still controlling things, right? Okay, you still want to be in control. Yes, you do need to be heat adapted, but so many people aren't acclimated to just being able to react quickly. Not just quickly on race day in terms of like steering, but also learning how to troubleshoot. All right, I don't feel very good. I think I'm behind on hydration. What do? I don't know. I can't just walk to my fridge or get off my bike, or look on Google. I have to like make this decision right now. Or I feel like I took in too many calories. I'm really, really bloated. What do? I don't know. I can't just coast. I'm still racing it. What do I do? Or, I'm getting this niggle, this pain here. Like I must stop and walk immediately. Do I have to, or can I keep going? I'm in the water, like I'm swimming and someone hit me and my goggles are leaking. Oh my gosh, we need to stop. Like what's going on? Like so many athletes fail because we're obsessed with controlled environments now, because yes, like I think a lot of people fear for their safety when they head out and go for a bike ride or whatever. But you've got to find ways to expose yourself to situations where you have to make decisions. And again, it also goes back to like now that we all feel like we're being watched, right? Social media, everything we upload goes to like 17 different apps, like so-and-so can like it. You're like, but I want to put myself on the flattest course in the best conditions so my pace can be the best. So people can see them getting faster and see what I'm doing, and they're going to like it more, and they're going to love it more, and I'm doing awesome. Here I go. I don't want to put myself in a situation that makes me look slow. What you need to do is put yourself in situations that are challenging, right? And you don't need to be stupid, but you need to challenge yourself, because when you're done with that run or that ride or that swim and you think it's totally something out of your comfort zone, you're going to learn more than just the fitness bump you're going to get. You're going to learn, all right, today I figured out how to do this, and putting that in your toolbox is going to be a lot better than putting the same thing in your toolbox. It's like, I've got 400 nails. Do I need a 401st? Probably not. Do I need like a different kind of screw? Probably. That'd be nice to have in there one day in case I need it. Stop accumulating things that you already have like nailed down and like literally and like perfected. Start accumulating things for your toolbox that you might need that are going to make or break a race at some day whenever you get to, the next time you go out and race.
Yeah.
Am I getting preachy today?
No, but I think like I think that's dead on. I
nail on the head.
Create dead on, nail on the head. Couldn't agree more with that either. I mean,
hammering people today. I don't want to come across like a tool, though. Sorry.
Wow. You are dadding it up right now. Screwed. The old dad jokester. I don't know, man. What else to say about that? But I think it's right. Yeah.
I threw you off on my dad jokes, didn't I?
Yeah, they're really funny.
You don't think they're funny at all, right?
No, I love them. It's just
right. Let's level this back to better conversations.
We're drilling it. Wow, man.
All right, that's a bit too much.
You just got to build your toolbox, and I agree with that. I mean,
all right, we're gonna refocus here. We still got about 20 minutes to kind of hone things in on.
20?
Yeah,
I think we got 10. Maybe.
You think you got 10?
Yeah.
If we keep doing dad jokes, I've already lost everybody.
Man,
you guys appreciate that, whatever.
I'm gone from I always used to work outside, and now I've been working inside a lot, and I actually think that the treadmill's kind of changed the game for me, which has been awesome. But I just recognize hardcore that I need to be outside. You don't have to. I think the treadmill is great for me to really hold back. It's been a really good tool for that, because I noticed the other day when I went out running, I was immediately going back to my old pace thoughts, and I was just trying to hold back, but I really liked seeing it on that watch. It was like, I still got it. Maybe.
It's addictive.
So, but I also think that there's a place for that. We're going to run camp, and it's going to be a by feel thing for me, but we're going to run a lot outside and a lot of hills. It's going to be a unique experience, and it's always amazing how like everybody that goes there can do more incredible things than they believe they can. So there's a lot to be said about the surroundings and the environment and the people and all that kind of thing, and the recoveries that you weave into the mix, and the hiking and just being out there. And I think that, that first day or two, like the next day, everybody kind of tries to sneak a nap, and then it's just sort of like recovers. And I also wanted to point out, I think a lot of times, I mean, you mentioned it a few times with the coffee, and you think you had too much coffee and the caffeine. And I do think that's a massive, for me, I'm a hydration pig, so I'm always about like walking, trying to make sure I got, but I know like if I just have a couple glasses of water, sometimes it really kind of sort of slowly takes me out of that super tired zone. So I always like to point out, because we're triathletes and we're always working out, and we're dehydrating ourselves almost constantly. And then you kind of like get into like, okay, well, coffee will wake me up, and then it's not really the good substitute for that. You know what I mean? So I think we can kind of get into dehydration troughs and misconstrue that as being tired or sick, when it's just like, hey, we just need to get a little more.
We should treat our body better.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like be aware, like, that I really, really need that, or just kind of like, because my thing is like, I love having coffee. Like I need to like invest.
I'm with you, yeah.
I need to invest in decaf. And yesterday I was like, I really want an extra cup of coffee, and I was like, don't do it. You learned your lesson. Don't do it. And so I didn't. I just had more water. But I just like having a cup of coffee in my hand. But going back to what you said about the treadmills, and like, now it's a good thing, right? There are certain things like, and I used this analogy yesterday in our Zoom call when I talked about swimming, and we got in the endless pool and through some form and instruction stuff. And I said, that's one of the things that I understand and appreciate about like introductory swim programs. They are meant to allow you to be comfortable, right? And to create habits of like getting to the pool and making yourself comfortable in an environment that you're not normally comfortable in. And it doesn't need to, they make it kind of seem easy, or they want it to seem easy so you don't feel overwhelmed and anxious to do things. But then when you get put in like a real life setting, it's not really applicable, right? It's like you have to do things differently if you want to actually swim fast and be able to do well in open water swimming and triathlons, or just become a faster swimmer. It's not about just being comfortable. Same thing go from like treadmills or trainer stuff. Yes, it makes you feel safe, right? You can control it. And might allow you to do it more often, because we are the environments that we set up, right? So if you have your setup in the house, like you're automatically gonna probably find that as like your thing. You're just gonna hop on it and do it more. While it's a good thing and it can allow you to create habits and create a pattern of consistency, what you don't want to become is linked to it directly the entire time, right? Because then you just become what you control. So when you go outside, now you're like, wait a minute, all these things going on. I'm overstimulated. I got these things. I'm going to run faster. Like it becomes more of the anomaly than it does, the constant. And you want to be able to adapt and learn, and like, okay, do I push myself? Do I not push myself? Can I go outside today and not kill myself, with my buddies, and show restraint? Sure. Like you have to, and that's the thing is like, we think so much these days, like all the time, and we're always being, pulled one direction. Like the last thing you really want to do sometimes is just think, right? And that's oftentimes like what athletes say, like, I just put on ERG mode today because I just don't want to think. I just kind of wanted to go numb and just kind of like let the trainer help me do the work, and not help me, but set it and forget it kind of thing. And I get that every once in a while, but sometimes, like when you go race, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna be mentally exhausted. You need to learn how to figure these things out on your own. You can't just become so. Everything now is like, well, it'll do it for you. 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 Like, what happened to like, you don't need everything to do things for you. Like you can generally, like you can just do things on your own. Like I know it's like, again, like sounds like the grumpy old man, like I turned 40 and I'm just like, gone downhill, but it's the truth. I'm
loving it.
Like I know you are. Like, but we need to you need to be able to learn this. You need to figure out things on your own. You put yourself in situations that aren't comfortable. They're not like, perfected. Like, because if you do that, and it's, you reference like run camp, people get out there and they run on terrain they're not used to running, and they run more, and they run faster, they run longer, they do more runs in like a 40 span they ever thought they would. It's because they've lost touch with the controlled version of what they have become so obsessed with. It was like, well, I see my treadmill and I'm only like a 10:30 person. Are you? Or have you just programmed yourself in your controlled environment to be just that? Same thing on the bike. You get people out and, on our camps, they go out and they ride more and they do more hills. Like, I didn't think I could do hills. I'm doing this. I just, I've been setting my trainer on that. Well, yeah, well, get outside and like do something with your life and like get to, feel, not really do something with your life. That's a little bit harsh. That's a little bit harsh. Like, I don't mean do something with your life.
Bring it.
But like get out and just like, and just go and like stop creating your own, destiny from before you even hit the start button on your watch, right? And just, you have to feel through things and do things away and then figure out. That's why you can almost times do more when you're around it, because you quit thinking, right? You quit thinking about what you think you've always been able to do, and you just do it, right? And that's what you have to be able to do in racing. You have to just take your environment, you can go with it. You have, positive peer pressure from either fans or at a camp, you have other people. Like, you can do so much more than you think you can and have more fun doing it. That was harsh.
It was, but
I'm sure you guys are doing great things with your life. That wasn't. Don't take it personally.
That wasn't. Yeah, people listen to this. They know that wasn't about them, but they can say that about people they know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can say about you. Do something with your life.
Do something with your life, man.
That's what I'm gonna say to you next time you get on the treadmill. Mike, do something with your life.
Instead of running on the treadmill at that same pace every time. But it's so true. Like, even with we want everything. Whatever we go to work, we go into our spreadsheets or whatever the heck we do in life. I don't know. That's a weird life to.
Some people love it.
I know. But when they get in there, some people. Okay, so there's a different. Some people like it to just be okay. Everything's working good, and just click, 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 go down. It's making all sense. Like, there's no. But other people like solving problems, and I think the more you get into, because everything, like we do Training Peaks, right? It'd be unbelievable if every day we went in and saw green, and then people said this felt amazing, just the right amount of effort and difficulty, perfect. But it's not that way, because people are human, and you see different variations, and the more you deal with the variations, the more accustomed you are and flexible you are to adapt and move in and handle it without it going, because you get right in there and you're not used to that. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to solve all these issues? It's like, why can't it just be easy? Well, it's not ever. Nothing is. And the more you can deal with those, it's the old adage that there's positive in every problem, or whatever that saying is. And like, where's the good opportunity here in this problem? And that's the way you got to look at it. I think, it's sort of like, just because you don't have chamois cream, doesn't mean you can't do your ride. You know what I mean? Figure it out. Or just tough it out and, be used, because someday you might forget it on race day and you'd be like, oh, wait, I forgot to. And then what are you going to do? Just not ride?
Power meter dies. Are you still going to race?
Yeah.
Probably, right? Learn what things feel like, right? Like, dude.
If you have DI2, just practice in one gear.
Right. Because
for 4 hours.
They're going to die a lot.
Your hardest.
It's like you have to be able to do, and that's okay. Like, go out and ride and just, guess. Like, I think those are fun games to play. Like, that was one of the things, like, when I had my really crappy run on Tuesday, because I was going off field, I knew my pace I was hitting. I was like, this is probably like in the 930s. Like, this is probably cool. And it was 35. I was like, yep, I know my body. Like, they do those things. Or when you're on the bike, like, cover your screen and be like, I'm cruising. Like, this feels like, 175. If you're looking like it's like 190, you're like, oh, this might be a good day. Or if it's like 130, you're like, maybe to be a little more aware today of like how I'm really, really feeling, how my legs are, how my heart rate is, and just kind of like ease my way into it. Like, you have to know your body and what things feel like, not just to be programmed a certain way, because you cannot program your ability and your execution and your outcome at a race. You just can't do it. And everything else we do now is totally programmed and controlled. Then you get to race day and it is anything but controlled. It is chaotic. It is inconsistent. You're going to have so many mental and emotional highs and lows. You're going to feel terrible. You're going to feel great. You're going to have all these things. You're going to have people. You're going to have environment. You're going to have wind. You're going to have heat. You're going to have cold. You're going to have, aid stations. You're going to have all these things that you never had before in your controlled environment. And you have to be able to react somewhat on doing those. And it's just, I think it's something you got to practice. And hopefully, you can, if you're listening, and take time and opportunity to do those things. And again, it doesn't have to be like the total race environment. Just do things that are out of your comfort zone, like that cause you to mentally be almost uncomfortable, right? It's like, I don't know how this is going to go. Take a new route, take a new this. Like, I'm all, I say like if rise for the week, but like occasionally do something where like, I'm not sure how this is going to go, or, maybe I'll take the Hillier route, or I'm going to take this different way, and just do something that makes you think a little bit more and just kind of be aware, because we just kind of get on this like set it and forget it mode. And then you forget how to like adjust and adapt and control things. I think it's a good exercise for us all to do, especially this time of year when all we want to do is be inside.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Go do something with your life.
Go do something. Are you the kind? I know you are.
What do you mean you know I am? What?
if you went to the pool, you know, it's just a nice normal summer, spring day, and you got your shorts on, you know, your running shorts or whatever, and then you get to the pool and you realize you didn't have jammers. Would you still swim
in my shorts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people you think there's got to be people who would be like,
do people turn around when they don't bring their watch?
That's
Olympians don't wear watches. Okay, triathletes, we have to wear like a 9x9 dialed, you know, Garmin 948 XT on our wrist. Like if I don't got it, I'm not swimming. You know, if it
would you swim in sweatpants?
Discard it. No. we're not doing sweatpants, and I'm sure as hell not doing jeans. Like, you know, if you've been to high school, you went to like party, you got thrown in, you got jeans on, you're probably still wearing them because you can't get them off. Like, that's just like, no one wants to swim in. No, I wouldn't swim in sweatpants. Like, no one wants to see you swim. You kicked out of the Y. Like, there's a guy in here swimming in sweatpants. Like, you know, his lint's like getting all over the pool, like the lap lane.
They had a sign up that said no swimming with masks. So you never know.
That's true. Some people might try to wear. I can't imagine trying. I can't even like run with a mask on. But yeah, we'll try to go do something with our life for the remainder of the day. We hope you didn't take that personally. We hope you enjoyed our dad jokes and you also enjoyed this podcast today. We appreciate you tuning in as always. Head on over to One Stop Shop, which is our website, c26triathlon.com. You can check out all the things coaching, camps, and community. We've got gear for sale on there. We have our club membership that is still going on. You can click on the coaching tab, scroll down a few, and click on there. More info on the third tab, which is the club membership. Mike is open for taking athletes right now. And I will tell you, if you're interested, you better go now because his phone is like ringing off the hook. We have like a red phone in the corner and it's ringing like every 5 seconds. Everyone loves
everything's picking up.
Everyone loves Mike. So check into that. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time for today.
Yeah. And I want you to start asking yourself, speaking of swimming,
talking
sweats. Not you.
Okay, it's like you're talking to me.
If you're thinking about your swimming, you know, a lot of people haven't been, you know, able to swim, and you know, it's one of those things that kind of lingers out there. We're going to have within the next day or two an option on our website at C26 Triathlon to, you know, purchase a swim analysis either in person or through video submission, and I'll have that all laid out. But I just want to throw that out there because it's. We're going to organize that because a lot of people have been asking for it, and it's a really, really good time to kind of set your baseline with your stroke and make sure you're not going off into the wilderness with
the wilderness.
Well, I mean metaphorically with some very crazy habits.
Yeah, don't. Now is not the time to keep swimming the wrong way. That is for sure.
Yeah, you want to be efficient as possible as you start building up.
That's right. Let's do something with your swimming life.
So other than that, yeah, I'm taking athletes. I'd love to have you get in touch with me, crushingiron@gmail.com if you have any questions. And other than that, yeah, we are going to move on and do something with our lives.
We'll try to.
You have any ideas?
No.
Just going to keep plugging along.
Back to my tool.
All right, man. See you.